Alright, so just decided to make a video on the body tools that I use. I know some of you guys might be interested in this to find out some of the things that over the years I've accumulated. I have lots of them. I don't know if I'll get them all in the video, but the first thing I bought when I was like, before I ever had a car, I think I was starting to do body work at about before I was 16. So, and that's because I had auto class in high school, and I had gotten into an early stage of that. So they had some of the body tools there, but I started buying them at that point. I think the first thing that I bought was a hammer and dolly set, which I don't have all of them anymore, and these aren't the original ones, but it comes with your comma dolly. I don't know what the name of this one is anymore. I think this might be the original one. I'm not sure. I don't know. But it comes with this, and comes with one of these. It comes with a heel dolly and a toe dolly. So, and the toe dolly looks like this. It doesn't have rubber on it. And so, start out with that little set, and it came with like 3 hammers. Since then, I've always replaced everything piece by piece. A lot of it, people found out I did body work, and they were at swap meets or whatever, and they saw stuff, and they picked it up and then gave it to me or sold it to me for what they paid for it. So a lot of these things I've gotten over the years, and a lot of them are gifts from people. I think the 2 of those hammers, there's actually one more somewhere that I don't know where it is, but it's around. But just like finding it right at this moment, take me too long. So anyway, the 3 hammers, the one on the right, I've probably used the most, and I've had that since I was very young. And I've recently got the shrinking hammer in the other one. I've done without a shrinking hammer for a long time. Too long. It's something that is really necessary if you're doing flat panels. Have a shrinking hammer and a shrinking dolly are really kind of nice to have, but these are really expensive. I'll just let you know right now. These are like $30 to $50 a piece. So it's usually something that you end up buying later. Okay, the 3 things up here. Let's move the camera up a little bit. The 3 things over here, those 3 things. These are long reach paintless dent removal tools. You find those in paintless dent removal things and tool sets. And they're really handy for a lot of things like dents that are way down on a door or something like that. They usually have something called body spoons, which I have a couple of those too. Right down there. Okay, these are body spoons. And you use these for, you can use this as a hammer, but you can also use it to put behind a panel to reach something that you can't reach with your hand, and to actually reach in and pry. And there's a lot of different things you use this for. Really a nice tool to have. Another thing is this. These get, when you get to all these things, it kind of gets a little pricey. These are not cheap. These type of things, the spotty spoon there and this thing. Okay. So I have that for reaching back into panels where you can't get your arm, you can't get your hand in there, but you want to have something behind it when you hammer. Remember, when you do body work, you don't hammer on the dolly. You put the dolly on the low part of the dent, and you hammer around the dolly to help. What you do is you're pushing this way, you're hammering around the dent, and that's to push it out. So a lot of people hammer on the dolly, and that causes the metal to actually stretch, and then you end up with more problems. Not good. The next thing I purchased, I think after I did the dent set, the hammer dolly set, was actually this. I accumulated the spoons later, and the other things, the paintless dent removal tools. I think somebody gave me those too. So I had this long slide hammer set. This is a 10-pound slide hammer, and these are really, really, really necessary. I'm going to say dolly and hammer set and this set. It also has another one that's really, really narrow like this for doing door edges and stuff like that. This thing you use probably more than anything. This can be welded on, and you notice I've used it a couple times. You weld it on something and then use that to pull. There's also hooks. There's all different types of things you can add to this. And they just unscrew like this. You just take it off and just quickly put on something else, different hook, you know. This one you can use for wheel pulling. A lot of different things I've used that for. It has a little screw on here, and I have a grade 8 bolt on here, and I can put all different types of attachments on there to pull different things. You can make something with your welder, use it to pull it. It is probably the most used tool, and I use this hook probably the most. So I'll put it back on, and that's what I leave on it all the time, is this hook here. So I don't know, I use all the different hooks. There's all different ones. I use it all the time. I said this and the dolly hammer set is probably the most critical things to have. And then the next item is right up there too. So what's in the box? All right, let's take a look. I've had this since, again, when I was about 16. So I bought this. This is a Porta power set, okay? This is back when they made them good. This is the old Allied brand. Back years ago, it was like a generic, you know, Walmart brand, or, you know, something that every cheap store carried. Or actually, before Walmart, it was like Kmart, right? And I got it at a swap meet. A lot of these tools I picked up at swap meets. Allied was everywhere. It was kind of a cheap thing, but it was actually a decent quality brand tool compared to the stuff they have today, which, you know, a lot of them, like I have another one over here. Pardon the dust. Gets a little dusty when you're doing body work. But anyway, this set here, I got like Northern Tool or something like that. And, you know, the cast is cheap, and it, you know, the tool, you drop it and the cast just breaks. But all I needed out of it really was the straight ram, because the other one went out in my other tool, which I'm still trying to find a seal kit for that. I think I found one, but I just haven't had a chance to deal with that. But it has all different sorts of things. You can take this, I'll show you a little bit how it works. You have this thing here. This is a Jaws of Life, you know what I've seen? You guys have seen that? Right. And it opens up. You can put it into crevices and whatever. That broke on the other dolly set or on the other one I bought. So be careful with those new ones. Then you have these things here. You can stack all together, and you've got all different sorts of ends. You got this one here is a rubber end for something. You got a flat end. You've got, hopefully that's all in frame. This little guy here goes on the end of there. You can stack all these poles on. You can any which way you want, and then you can make something to pull out a dent. This is normally the ram. There's the pistons out of it right now. There's the seals I need to find. So anyway, this pushes in and out of this thing. You know, the ram just pushes out, and then you put all the different attachments on it. And this is called a Porta power, and it does all different types of. You can pull framework, you can pull out a dent, you know, with it. You know, there's just a million different things to use. Something that takes time and practice to learn how to use it. But it's a really, really necessary tool. And I am going to fix this one, because the new ones are gone. New ones I've seen. Anyway, we'll move on to something else. Show you something else here. Well, back years ago, we used to have to torch weld everything. Now, you know, you can buy a MIG welder so cheap, it's just not even worth torch welding anything. We used to warp everything out with a torch. And now these titanium from Harbor Freight are really good for very cheap welder. You can do a lot of stuff with this welder. This welder, I think, for the price, you really can't beat it. And I've, you know, because it does have the inductance knob and all that stuff. So it's really kind of a cool welder to have, the Harbor Freight titanium. It's probably my favorite one. I do have a 220 welder. It's on the other side of the shop for doing larger stuff. But this thing does, you could do almost anything with this smaller, this one or the 220 welder, either one, with a gas bottle. Of course, I use a 150 of gas, so it's a very large gas bottle that I have because I do a lot of volume. Another handy tool is your dead blow hammer. I have about every kind of vice grip you can buy. The ones from Harbor Freight, the Bremen ones, are actually pretty good. The regular cheap Harbor Freight ones are garbage. These ones are good. So these are duckbill vice grips. These actually, you can bend metal with these. You put the metal inside there, bend it. Those are handy to have. These are another type of welding vice grip for stair-step edge. Like if you have an edge that's hanging over and you need to clamp that, you can put this underneath and it clamps it like that. So these are handy to have. I have, like, again, a million different sets of vice grips. I have a lot of these. They have these, the Bremen ones at Harbor Freight are really nice to have. This is my miniature small oxyacetylene setup. I got this at on Craigslist, pretty cheap. You know, it got some decent sized gas bottle. It's a, see, a 55 and a, I don't know what size that one is, 40. 55 and a 40 of oxygen and acetylene. Really handy to have for doing shrinking metal, for doing bending frame pieces, stuff like that. It's really handy to have an oxyacetylene torch, but I didn't start out with that. This actually works pretty well for shrinking metal, but it takes a lot longer. You know, if you have a lot of shrinks to do, it's going to take a lot of time with this welder, with this. So at some point you're going to want to do like I did and just get the oxyacetylene. I had one of these that was the regular style torch, and then they have these at Harbor Freight, which are pretty cool because you just insta flame. Kind of handy, good for shrinking metal. It works good for the beginner. Not bad. One of the newest things I've incorporated is these stripping wheels. One of the subscribers told me about it. I keep on learning new stuff all the time. You know, I started when I was 16. I'm 56, so you can imagine in 40 years I've learned a lot of stuff. Is that 40 years? I think so. You know, I've learned a lot of things, and I keep on learning all the time. These stripping wheels are really handy to strip off all the paint. It's actually faster than grinding it, so these things are really nice. I'm going to be using these all the time now because they work really fast. They don't wear out really very quickly. They last quite a while, and you can get a set of these on Amazon for like 20 bucks for 5. I have several of these grinders, and what I do is I have one with a cutoff wheel, have one with a flap wheel on it, like this. This here, flap wheels, tons of those for welding. So like I said, I like the battery powered ones because then I don't have cords all over the place. But I do always have one of these with a wire wheel on it, one with now I'm going to have one with a whatever that is, stripping wheel, one with a flap wheel on it, and one with a cutoff wheel. I just keep the same ones on all the time. You buy these cheap grinders at Harbor Freight, and then just, you know, when they go out, I just throw them away. This is an 8-inch DA for sanding filler. This is a gear-driven DA. It doesn't sound like the regular DA does. It's nice because it's big, large, and it's flat. So I don't use a longboard file. I use this instead. A lot of guys do that. Back years ago when these came out, I've had this since I was about 18 years old. The same sander. I think it's Ingersoll Rand. And back then it was Ingersoll Rand was a kind of a new company. It was cheap. And then I like this Aircat sander because it uses, this is my favorite sander out of all the ones I have, because it actually is very lightweight. It doesn't use a lot of air, so you can, you know, it doesn't burn up all your air in your compressor. Another one I use too, I'll show you that one. This is my favorite polisher, the DeWalt. I do have the Harbor Freight one. I use that one for grinding. This is a original National Detroit DAQ. These are very aggressive sanders, so if I want to strip something, sand something down really quick that I don't really care how it turns out, I just want to do the first part of the sanding. I use this thing. It just takes it down really quick. It doesn't use a lot of air. Really good sander, but it is hard to hold on to. It doesn't do really good for doing body work, which I do my body work with a DA. A lot of guys don't. I also have a Hutchins. Don't really like this too much. It's really heavy, and it uses a lot of air, so I don't use it much. Probably this particular part, number 3M block, is probably the one I like the most. There's other ones that I have that are stiffer, but this is for like just doing your final hand sanding. There of course is a million different types of blocks, you know, for doing blocking and making stuff look straight and good, you know, and a lot of that's done with a longboard. I can't find mine right now. I don't know where it is, but I do have a longboard, but I use it very rarely. I only use it certain times when I'm doing like really long panels or something like that. I just want to make it look perfect, which I don't do much of that anymore. So I'm doing just like making it look decent, but not like super perfect and all that. I just don't have time for that. So anyway, that's just a little bit about body tools and stuff like that that you end up using. Again, I don't know where my longboard is. I wish I could show it to you. I've had it since I was 16. It's around. It's just like right now I'm in the middle of trying to clean out the garage. So as soon as I get this nose done, then I will be cleaning out, pulling out the truck, cleaning out the garage, and then I'll find that, I'm sure, it's in here. It didn't run away, I'm sure. But the longboard I have is clips on paper on it. It's a longer, about, I think it's 16 inches. And the ones today now have stick-it paper, or they have Velcro style paper on them. So they're much better than the one I have, old one I have. So it wouldn't really help you to see that. I don't, like I said, I don't use it much. And I use the stick-it paper on it. So it works fine with that. But anyway, that's just a little bit about body tools. You know, I accumulated mine over, you know, over many years. In my first 10 years, or first 5 years, I bought that, the hammer and dolly set, this slide knocker set, and that's pretty much what I started with body work. Had paint guns and you know, polisher, sander polisher, and I also had a grinder. My grinder just went out, and I'm not going to replace it. I think I'm just going to use the polisher from now on. I went down to buy one, and I was like, hey, you know, I don't use it that much. So, and I had an old Craftsman one. It finally just, the armature went out on it, and it wasn't the brushes. So when the armature goes out, it's like, toss it, get a new one. That's the way I look at it. Every time I try and take it apart and mess around with something like that, I just end up wasting my time. So anyway, that's a little bit about body work, a little about tools, things that you'll see me use, or you've seen me use before, and that's how I get stuff done. I'll talk to you in the next video. Please like, share, and subscribe. I hope that helps you out if you're looking for stuff to do, and don't expect to buy this stuff overnight. It's going to take you years to get it. Talk to you later.